Christian leaves his family, his friends, and his fortunes to travel to a city everyone else believed mythical. After he has traveled for days, a hill appears that towers above any he has seen before. The hill of difficulty. With no other choice, Christian faces the only way to the celestial city, the steep and narrow road. John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, an allegory of the Christian's journey through life, is similar to our own life journeys. Our long road reveals several hills of difficulty to climb, such as financial hardships, broken relationships, cancer, and even worldwide pandemics. Today, we're going to take a closer look at a hill of difficulty that many are facing: Lyme disease. I spent a while researching on LymeDisease.org, and so today we will discuss the basics of Lyme symptoms, and finally how this topic applies to all of us. So first, what is Lyme disease? Lyme is caused by bacteria named Borrelia burgdorferi. Since these bacteria have a spiral shape, they are also classified as spirochetes. These spirochetes are initially found in mice. However, the disease is transferred to humans by ticks that have bitten an infected mouse. Many ticks are the size of a poppy seed, and their bites are often painless and go unnoticed. Furthermore, deer, squirrels, and birds carry the ticks around, increasing the contact with humans. Now, is this really a big deal? The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, known as the CDC, states that Lyme is the United States' most widespread vector-borne disease at up to 476,000 cases every year. However, LymeDisease.org estimates that there are 7 to 50 times more cases of Lyme that are unreported. Even just using the CDC's conservative estimate of 476,000 cases every year, Lyme disease has 1.5 times more cases than the number of women diagnosed with breast cancer every year. Let me repeat that. Lyme disease has 1.5 times more cases than the number of women diagnosed with breast cancer. This disease that is already costing our nation $75 billion annually is hurting U.S. citizens so significantly that representatives and senators have even brought it up in Congress. Now that we have discussed a few Lyme basics, let us dive into Lyme symptoms. Some patients develop a bullseye rash, muscle and nerve pain, stomach problems, and cognitive impairment. And many report flu-like symptoms such as fever, sore throats, chills, sweats, joint pain, and fatigue. LymeDisease.org describes life with Lyme as profoundly debilitating, worse than that of patients with congestive heart failure. There is such a variety of Lyme symptoms because the spirochetes play hide and go seek throughout the body. The places they hide determine the symptoms of the patient. They can affect the circulation, digestion, and nervous systems, and they can damage muscles, joints, and even organs such as the brain and heart. Since many of these symptoms can imitate other diseases, Lyme is nicknamed the Great Imitator. This imitation leads to an overwhelming number of Lyme victims suffering under various misdiagnoses, such as chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and Parkinson's disease. For example, Gurnon reported on Next Avenue the true story of the famous musician and actor Kris Kristofferson, who suffered for years with Alzheimer's disease. His memory was fading rapidly despite the Alzheimer's medications. Then a doctor decided to question the diagnosis and test for other illnesses. When a Lyme disease test came back positive and Kristofferson switched to treatments for Lyme, his memory and health had an amazing comeback in just a few weeks. His wife Lisa said all of a sudden he was back. Another example is about a 13-year-old girl who participated in various activities such as theater, soccer, and ballet. Then everything began to change. After doing something as simple as walking up the stairs, she would complain her legs felt as if she had just run a marathon. Her frequent sore throats came back negative on strep tests. She had daily headaches, and she couldn't even do her schoolwork. When her mom would ask, "What do you want on your sandwich?" she'd be unable to respond, and with tears just shrug her shoulders. The Lyme in her brain had stopped the mental ability to process and answer a question. The doctor performed several tests and told her nothing was wrong with her. So I went home and spent months in bed, lacking the energy for anything, rarely coming to the kitchen for meals. Yes, Lyme has been my hill of difficulty. With tears, I quit ballet, which I had started when I was 3, held off high school, and couldn't even go to church. Soon I even used a wheelchair. And nothing's wrong with me. I would wake up in the middle of the night because of the extreme muscle and nerve pain in my legs. And it's not just me. I have heard story after story of suffering people turned away by doctors. Before we move on then, why do many mainstream doctors refuse to treat Lyme? Some doctors won't diagnose without a positive test. However, Lyme tests are often inaccurate, leaving many sufferers untreated. On the other hand, some will treat Lyme for a few weeks, which is not enough to eradicate the spirochetes, and then claim that you're cured. Unfortunately, no cure exists for Lyme disease. Basically, Lyme must be treated by various methods such as antibiotics or herbs until the immune system can take over and keep the bacteria under control on its own. So, thanks to my mom's dedicated researching, I soon visited a Lyme literate doctor, a doctor willing to see Lyme patients. She immediately diagnosed me with chronic Lyme disease, which was confirmed by blood tests. Because I was accurately diagnosed, I was on treatment for 4 years and am now getting back to normal life. Now, how does all of this information apply to us? First, we need to avoid Lyme by avoiding ticks. You may have read that ticks are only in the woods. Unfortunately, however, ticks haven't read those books. Remember how earlier I said ticks are carried around? Wild animals and pets can carry them everywhere, including our very own backyards. There are various ways to avoid ticks. Use permethrin on clothing, check for ticks, dry clothes on high heat, clear brushwood piles and garbage from your property, and treat your pets. We can't trick ourselves into believing this is just a regional issue, because Lyme disease is an increasing problem in all 50 states. We all need to be aware of Lyme because it will, at some point, affect each of you or someone you know. If you believe you have Lyme, you should see a Lyme literate doctor, such as the doctors listed at LymeDisease.org, to get the treatment you need. Now, the second application is the most important element to take away from today. Whatever hill of difficulty you are facing, persevere through the trial. Don't give up. Fight through it. The Bible says God will never leave you. He will strengthen you and help you. And because of him, we are more than conquerors. The Holocaust survivor, Corrie ten Boom, once said, "When a train goes through a tunnel and it gets dark, you don't throw away the ticket and jump off. You sit still and trust the engineer." Going back to John Bunyan's story, when Christian withstood all the trials in his journey, he finally reached his goal, the celestial city. James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life." With that goal in mind, follow and stay on the King's narrow road, especially during the trials. of your journey.